Let's start seated. We're gonna have two blankets and a ball handy for practice. And we'll just find a nice comfy seat. Oh, allow your spine to get vertical
There's your ball.
and allow just a little bit of easy breath to make its way through the body. Really think about how those inhales and exhales are impacting your seat, how they're impacting the nervous system, how each half cycle of breath leads into and mirrors the preceding and following cycle of breath, half cycle of breath. Think about how you can land at the end of each exhale and how you can more deeply, more intently receive the beginning, middle, and end of the inhale cycle so that we just continue to feel through the cycles of breath. Get everybody in the room. Landing at the end of the exhale and receiving throughout the duration of the inhale. Just give ourselves just about 30 more seconds just to feel into the centering of your breath, the beginning of this practice. Eyes are closed. Let's allow them to open. We'll extend our legs out in front of us so we find a little staff orientation. Remember that the knees can bend. We're going to head into a traditional seated forward fold here. As you make your way forward, really feel if there is expansion possible with the exhale side of your breath. The expansiveness is more or less inherent in the inhale side of the breath, right? The chest cavity is literally expanding. And you see if both sides of your breath can be expansive. Really slowing down to receive that opportunity for expansion. We'll give ourselves 30 more seconds here. Maybe one last full, complete exhale. You can land all the way at the end of the breath. We'll walk ourselves back up into staff. Let's take our left leg and bend the knee, and then allow the left knee to fall out wide. Now, if you get into this figure four leg shape and this left leg external rotation of the hip just feels like it could use or benefit from support, remember you have those blankets, you can slide that underneath there. Pay attention to where the middle of the shape is. Maybe you line the belly button up with the middle of the mat. And then we're going to take our left hand behind us, and the right hand's going to come on top of the left thigh. So a little bit of a modification on traditional cross leg twist. The right hand here really helping to orient the shoulder girdle. So don't think about cranking with the right hand to create more rotation. Use your exhale half of your breath to create more rotation. Just enough pressure in the right hand that we keep the shoulder girdle neutral, and then allow your head to go wherever feels best. So that can be kind of gazing 90 degrees off the mat. You could keep the gaze forward, or maybe you're following that left shoulder behind you. A little bit of awareness on that left arm so that we're not collapsing in, but we're staying upright with the spinal column. That left arm provides kind of like a kickstand to make that possible. So there's this relatively young yogi who at some point has stopped speaking. No one's exactly sure when that happened or why it happened. But more and more people are becoming aware of the fact that he's no longer speaking. In fact, doesn't seem to be doing much of anything other than sitting still. Maybe one last exhale breath that allows you to completely find that twist. And then we'll come back to neutral. And we want to once again pay attention to the middle of this space. Once we've established kind of that midline, we're going to fold right down it. So we're not leaning over to the right thigh, and we're not leaning over into that external rotation. We're really keeping our torso right down the middle here. You can use the arms as kickstands. You can use the elbows as kickstands. If the hips have the capacity and you can use your forehead as a kickstand, perfect. But keep your midline awareness kind of attuned here. And in that exhale, we have some asymmetry in the way that the posterior chain is being used. Generally, that's going to pull most tautly in our shortest areas. So high calf insertion, middle hamstring, kind of mid lumbar to mid thoracic joint are generally the hot spots. Your hot spot may be somewhere different, just depending on where shortness is manifesting in that posterior chain on your body. Remember your opportunities to soften, to bend the knees, to maintain a more neutral spinal positioning. Remember how the exhale half of your breath is allowing for expansion. We'll give ourselves 30 more seconds here. Maybe one last exhale so that you completely let go. We'll bring ourselves back to feet. And let's extend our left leg to mirror the right. And just for a moment, bring the thighs and the big toe mounds together so that there's just a little bit of internal pressure. Just feel how the QL musculature, that quadriceps musculature, big meaty straps on either side of the spinal column are responding to that little bit of medial line pressure. And then let's open that up. Bottoms of the feet come together and into this little seated butterfly. Feel how that posterior chain has responded to the different foot position, and then a little forward fold. Last 30 seconds here. We'll bring ourselves back up into a nice vertical spine. Here, the left leg will extend. And so we once again create this asymmetry. Think about if that external rotation is providing or creating instability towards that right side now. And then the right hand comes behind us, and the left hand comes on top of that right thigh to help neutralize or stabilize the shoulder girdle as that right shoulder draws us into rotation. Rotation here really controlled, integrated with your breath. more and more people start talking about this yogi who's not talking, who's not doing much of anything, who's just sitting in stillness. And as more and more people talk about this yogi, more and more people come to see this yogi. And they start sitting in relative quiet. Last 30 seconds here. And when it feels appropriate, torso comes back to this neutral alignment. We want to once again check in with this medial line, just draw that to our awareness, and we'll take that awareness into the forward fold right down the medial line. An asymmetrical pull once again on the posterior chain. And so you may feel this manifesting in acute ways at your points of shortness. Think about how that acute sensation, if manifesting, is communicating with you and what adjustments you might want to make based upon that communication. Remember that you have the ability to kickstand this shape with your arms. For most of us, especially if you spend a lot of time seated, right? This is a position that's fighting against locked musculature, locked structure at the sacrum. Down into the hips. As the years go by, this quiet yogi, this still yogi, this silent yogi draws more and more of a following. More and more people come to sit, to be in this space of the stillness, to be immersed in this silence. And more people share this story. And as more and more people share the story, more and more people come, more and more people share that story, and more people come. Last 30 seconds here. When it feels appropriate for you, we'll walk our spine back up towards neutral, towards a staff. We'll extend the right leg to mirror the left and give yourself that little brief squeeze towards the medial line. really feel into how the torso posterior chain is responding to that little squeeze. And then bend both knees, bring the bottoms of the feet together, and let the knees fall out wide. And one more time, we'll take ourselves into a seated forward fold. This will be the last seated forward fold of practice. So just note that. Last 30 seconds here. Maybe one last full exhale breath so that you completely expand into what is available. And then we'll walk ourselves up into seat. We are going to keep the legs bent, take both props from a shelf fold, and either give yourself a roll or a nice little fold. They're going to come underneath the lateral edges of the thigh. So our goal here is to create some really strong support. And then we are headed onto our spine. Bottoms of the feet stay together. Knees are elevated and supported by your props. We have gone through a pretty extended duration of forward fold sequencing, right? And so as you settle into this neutral spinal support, if the body is kind of revolting, see what tweaks and adjustments you can make with core engagement, with arm positioning, with distance between the heels and the sacrum, so that that back musculature can relax. And we're settling deeply into that relaxation. Check in with the expansive capacity of the inhale and exhale side of your respiration. And so every morning, this yogi would come, he would sit down in this courtyard in stillness, in silence. And the courtyard would fill and fill. Rumors started to spread through the crowd that one day, when the courtyard reached full capacity, the yogi would break his silence, share his teaching and his thoughts. And that motivated people to bring more and more their friends, their neighbors, their acquaintances to come see this yogi. Because there must be some wisdom in this silence. Think about how the sacrum is sitting, how the posterior chain is responding, how that response is responding to the cycles of your breath. Each time you exhale, your body's given this opportunity to fully land against the mat. And how just because you have these constant opportunities to fully land doesn't mean that's what's happening. It may be what's happening, but you may really need conscious awareness so that you can fully land. So you direct that conscious awareness towards the cycles of your breath. Years and decades pass, and this crowd keeps expanding, not in a linear way, but over the course of time, the crowd size grows. The courtyard becomes more and more filled in. There are times when people think it's full, he's going to speak, and someone else comes in and sits down, and they realize there's more space. If you've kept that conscious awareness on the breath, or if you've drifted away from ensuring that you land at each exhale, kind of a really powerful demonstration, kind of the dual-edged quality of the autonomousness of our respiration. Right? On one hand, the amount of cognitive resources that we would lose if we had to continuously think about breathing would be immense. And at the same time, while we're in this low restorative practice, and we're putting effort into staying conscious of our breath, it's quite easy to drift away. And so, of course, in the due process of life, it's quite hard to even imagine constantly being conscious of how each cycle of respiration is impacting us. But it is, whether we're paying attention or not. And so just task yourself from now until the end of practice, cycling back into that thought. Am I consciously controlling my respiration in a way where it's allowing me to land? Maybe controlling's the wrong word. Maybe engaging is better. Am I consciously engaging with my respiration in a way in which allowing me to land through each cycle? We'll give ourselves 30 more seconds here. Thirty seconds of focused engagement on our respiration. And when it feels appropriate, let's bring our knees to neutral. And here we are going to move the props so that they're not impacting our ability to rotate our knees or allow our knees to fall out wide. But we want access to them because you may want to bring them back into play. And then give yourself that little engagement towards the medial line. So there's a thigh squeeze together, maybe a big toe squeeze together. It's subtle, but it's pressure towards the medial line. And then we're going to allow the knees to rotate, keeping that little bit of medial squeeze. just a little awareness on that medial squeeze. As you get to the end of your rotation, see if with that little bit of medial squeeze, you can push that top knee just a little bit forward. So as you rotate to the left, and you get all the way to the end, the thighs are squeezed together. Can the right knee push forward just slightly, just for a little more lumbar rotation? And let's do one or two more times in each direction, just kind of working your way through what your body would most benefit from. And then we'll come back to a position where our knees are pointed towards the ceiling or sky in that neutral orientation. Run a scan of the medial line, center of the forehead, all the way down. And we'll bring the bottoms of the feet back together. And the knees are going to fall out wide, this time without support. And we're going to create that same level of tension to the medial line that we've been working in the thighs, this time to the bottoms of the feet. So it's not like we're trying to push the feet through one another, right? We're just trying to create enough pressure that we could hold a piece of paper there. Maybe that's the right descriptor. And then maintaining that pressure on the bottom of the feet, we're just going to start a really slow butterfly wings. So we're moving the knees up and down. Now, because we have pressure in the bottoms of the feet, it is unlikely and likely unhelpful if you're bringing the inner thighs together, right? Then we've gone into bowing the ankles in a way that is not stabilizing. So even if your ankles have that type of mobility, try to maintain ankle integrity as you work the thighs up and down. And then we're going to start to sync some conscious respiration with our movement so that the inhales are lifting the thighs and the exhales are releasing the thighs into external rotation. This should do a couple of things. It should ensure that we slow down the movement of our thighs. And it should enable more opening into the external rotation. That being said, if the external rotation is feeling like it's too much for that abductor musculature, slide the props back down underneath the thighs and have a kind of a breaker, a bumper for how open you allow the hips to be. As we're moving here, the duration of the movement is mirroring the duration of the breath. The abductor musculature, this inner thigh abductor musculature, is relatively easy to fatigue. And so you may start to feel some jitteriness in the way that your thighs are moving. Don't try to fight against that and don't try to give into that. Try to smooth that out through the use of your respiration. We're going to give ourselves 60 more seconds here. it feels appropriate, we're going to allow the thighs to land in an external rotated position. If it feels like it's too much, slide the props back underneath your thighs. We're not going to be here for long, but we are going to just pause here for 30 more seconds. When it feels appropriate, we'll bring our knees back to neutral and we'll just land here. Feel how those femoral heads sit in the hip socket differently. Feel how the sacrum sits in the middle of the body differently. Think about how that whole hip girdle is responding to that tension that we connected to with the slow, fluid movements. If you can just release any residual tension in the body through your exhales. And then eventually, no rush to do this. We're going to grab a ball. We're going to grab a blanket. And we are going to make a little neck taka, right? So ball goes in the middle. We fold that relatively hot dog style. That's coming down behind us. The blanket is just here to hold the ball. The ball is just here to position the neck. Again, I am trying to work this in as frequently as possible so that we can all take care of our cervical spine. Three positions for the ball. You have the base of the cervical spine where the cervical spine and the thoracic spine meet. A lot of us are getting that little bump there. That can be a spot in the middle of the cervical spine to just fully articulate the extension, or at the base of the skull. All three positions offer benefits. All three positions offer different benefits. Feel into what feels like it's benefiting you the most and pick that position for your body. Legs can be extended, knees can stay bent. You could bring the bottoms of the feet together and let the knees fall out wide. I'm not suggesting that is your position, but if that is where your body's calling you, listen. Decades pass, and this yogi starts to get quite old. And the crowd sizes are getting quite large. People have been building for decades around this silent, still anomaly. One day, they do it. The courtyard is full. And there are people waiting to get in, but there is physically no space for them to be there. And there is a electric buzz in the courtyard. And it is a unique electric buzz because it is not as rising chatter. It is this deafening silence. Thousands and thousands of people packed together, all with their intention and their focus on this one being sitting in perfect stillness and perfect silence, waiting for the moment that he will speak. spot. Hours pass. And then the sun's time illuminating that portion of Earth passes, and night starts to fall. And as night starts to fall, a little whisper starts to spread through the courtyard. He's not going to speak. People start to leave. When morning comes, still in silence, more people start to leave. Over the course of the day, more and more people start to leave. A year later, there are only a handful of people still waiting. We'll start to bring an awareness back to your breath if it's traveled away. We'll start to move the prop out from underneath our neck so that our head can come back to the mat. Give yourself any final tweaks, adjustments, or movements that would be advantageous for you here, that would be beneficial for your drifting into Shavasana. And then when you feel like you've had everything, when you feel like you're ready, like you can appreciate some stillness, let's drift into that, into your version. The yogi came and he sat down as he usually did in silence, in stillness, but he looked like the energy in his body was no longer there. There are only three or four people who were still coming daily, and they saw how lifeless he was. And they looked at one another, and one by one they got up and they left. And as the last one of them exited the courtyard, this yogi opened his eyes. And almost in an inaudible whisper, in this hushed tone, he said, "You are the source. If you only stop seeking it in others." And with that, he closed his eyes, and his time on this earth ended. No one heard him speak. No one heard the message. We'll start to move our fingers and our toes. Our wrists and our ankles. Our elbows and our knees. Shoulders, hips, neck, head, jaws, eyes, tongue. Eventually, the entirety of the body moves. We'll utilize that movement to bring ourselves back into a seated space. Spine gets tall, breath gets fluid. Eyes close. And with your next inhale, just bring your hands together, heart center. Over the course of the next 7 days, can you remind yourself the truth itself rarely shouts because it has the luxury of waiting. See how that impacts your experience. Thank you so much for being a part of this morning's practice and for being you. Namaste. Happy Sunday, guys. Appreciate the heck out of you being here. I hope you have a beautiful day. I'll be back tomorrow night if you want to move. If I see you then, heck yeah. If I see you next week, heck yeah. If I see you in the future, heck yeah. Love the heck out of you. Mwah.